Sometimes in today's world, people have to move miles and miles from their homes because there is danger from war or big floods. In today's story from the Bible, the Hebrew people have moved hundreds of miles across desert land, not because there had been wars or floods, but because their God had freed them from being slaves, and he had protected them on their long journey away from Egypt. Now they were safe. Or were they? Let's open the book to the Bible story called Spies in Caanan.
When the Hebrews finally arrived at the edge of the land that God had promised them, they were still not happy. We're worried. We're frightened. What if something bad happens when we get there? So they asked Moses to send spies into the land. They wanted to know exactly what lay ahead. There were 12 spies, one for each of the Hebrew tribes. They tiptoed into the promised land. They hid behind bushes. They peeked out from behind boulders and then had a good look around. Then they sneaked back across the border and told their people about everything that they had seen. At first, their report sounded good. The land is wonderful. There's loads of food. Just look at the size of these grapes. But some of the spies had other things to say. The cities are surrounded by enormous walls. The people are giants, and they make us look like tiny little grasshoppers. Wait, cried two other spies, whose names were Joshua and Caleb. God has promised this land to us, and he will help us to win it, no matter how big our enemies are. But it was too late. The Hebrews had already started complaining again. They'll kill us all and take our wives and children to be slaves. Why, oh why didn't we stay in Egypt? God was angry when he heard this, angry that his people still did not trust him, even though he had already saved them from so much. So he sent them back into the wilderness and told them that they must wander there until they stopped complaining. And so they did. They wandered for 40 years until their children were grown and everyone who had complained was dead. Everyone but Joshua and Caleb, the two spies who had trusted God. At long last, it really was time for God's people to stop wandering in the wilderness. So Joshua and Caleb led the Hebrews across the Jordan River and into the promised land. And this time, there was no moaning and complaining, only cheering and grateful thanks. We've arrived, we're here, we're home at last.
Isn't it strange that even though God has done so many amazing things to help them, God's people still didn't trust him? Joshua and Caleb trusted God, but the people wouldn't listen to them. When God's people eventually went into the land that God had promised them, they must have been very happy that their wandering in the wilderness was over. Close your eyes and imagine how different it must have been from the desert. Now I'm going to say a prayer. And if you want to make it your prayer, say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, help us to know who we should listen to and who we should trust. Thank you that you plan good things for us and want us to be happy. Amen.